All right. Good evening. This is John Van Scoik, the Vice Chair of the Select Board. And do not adjust your sets. We have a minimal group here. Fortunately, it is a quorum. Our chair, Heather Hamilton, is in Maine, but might join us at around 8 if we're still going strong at 8. And Miriam Ashkenazi is going to join us in the next, I think sometime maybe within the next hour. But that means there's 3 of us, but 3 is a quorum, and we are going to proceed with the business of the agenda, which begins with announcements, if we have them, from board members. And Bernard, Mike, anything, or Chaz, anything you guys feel like letting people know tonight? Bernard, go ahead.
Yeah, nothing new, but I just wanted to mention that I attended, along with you, John, the Indigenous Peoples Day celebration on Monday, which actually was a very nice celebration.
Bernard, you went silent all of a sudden.
I heard him.
Oh, you did hear him. Okay, sorry about that. My bad. Sorry.
Okay.
Keep going.
As John knows, it's a very nice celebration, good food, and a nice crowd came to learn about people who lived on this land before the Europeans arrived. So just wanted to give a shout out to the people who organized this, the Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee, particularly Caitlin and Lloyd of the Diversity Office. So.
Great. How about you, Mike?
No, nothing for me.
Nothing to add. I'm just going to, Chaz, go ahead. I just saw
No, go ahead, Jen, sorry.
Well, all right. I had a couple of things quickly to add to what Bernard just said. I want to just name the people who are on that Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee, because they did a terrific job. So let's give them some credit. Felina Silva Robinson, who chaired it, Kaylee Bennett, Catherine Florio, and Shana Pena. So thank you very much to those individuals. Thank you also to the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations, led by Lloyd Gelano. Special shout out to Caitlin Starr, who I know did a lot of work on this Indigenous Peoples celebration that we just had. So that was terrific. The other thing I wanted to quickly preview for folks and say this would be a good event to put on your calendar and to attend. And that's coming up just this Thursday at 4:30, the exact same location as the Indigenous Peoples celebration. And that is this park that is right there behind the public health building in that whole town hall complex. And in that, behind that building, there is a Remembrance Garden. And it's called a Remembrance Garden for a reason. It is where we have an annual observance in memory of Jennifer Lynch and all victims of domestic violence. So it's known as the Jennifer Lynch Remembrance Garden. And the Jennifer Lynch Committee Against Domestic Violence prepares this annual day in memory of victims of domestic violence. And that's going to be this Thursday at 4:30 in that garden. So that's the official address is 11 Pierce Street. Chaz, what's up?
That was exactly what I wanted to bring up, so thank you.
Oh, there you go. Good. Well, then I think we are ready to go to public comment, and I'm going to just go through the brief prelude to public comment, which is thank you if there are people joining us tonight with comments. It's an opportunity to hear perspective on issues that matter. Few rules, each person speaking tonight limited to 3 minutes. You don't need to use the entire time. You may if you like. Please refrain from personal attacks and from addressing personnel issues. Members of the public might raise questions. If so, we'll try to get you an answer. and we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is up. And please conclude your remarks at that time. So Kate McGilvery, who is our Devon Fields tonight. Who do we have?
We have Ade, I just promoted, and we had one more person who signed up to speak, but I don't see him in attendance. So Ade's here.
Let's start with Ade then.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, good evening, John. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And thank you for letting me speak. Ade Genesee, Brookline resident and Black and Brown member. Just a quick thank you to everyone that responded to the email. We as an organization, our board of directors, our partners, members of the vulnerable communities in Brookline, we're looking forward to seeing you all, especially Mr. Chaz. We believe it's a good way and a good platform to keep the positive energy we have going on right now. So I'm sure we have some good solutions to provide from our perspective as Black and Brown community in Brookline. And hopefully we haven't heard from Miss Miriam. Hope she gets to attend. Our mothers are looking forward to meeting her too as well, and have some positive conversation with us. So I just wanted to say thank you, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys on Friday. Good food, by the way, so come with an empty stomach.
Thank you for the invitation, Ade. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that good food, but also to having a chance to get to know people a little bit better and on an informal basis. Kate, any other people to do public comment? Kate?
We have 12 attendees at this time, and nobody has used the chat or the hand raise feature to indicate they want to speak.
All right, then. So we will move to the, excuse me, to the miscellaneous part of the agenda, and beginning with just a quick note, meeting minutes from last Thursday's October 6th meeting will be ready for approval next week. And then as we head into several items that we will go through in short order, I just want to take a moment to call attention to the first of the items, which is an authorization to hire request for the role of assistant controller. And the news behind that particular item is that Jan Lavoie has served the town of Brookline with incredible dedication and skill. And Jan, if I mispronounce your last name, do forgive me. As the assistant controller for the last 37 years, and will retire at the end of the month. And this is our chance as a select board to thank Jan very much for her expertise and her professionalism. People have described Jan as the backbone of the controller's office, and her service to the town has had a significant impact on staff and residents. So Jan, you've got many, many friends at Town Hall and many friends in the community who wish you well. And that leads to the first item on this, what we call consent agenda. For those of you following the agenda, it's item 3B, and that is the question of approving the authorization to hire request for the assistant controller in the finance department. On this part of the agenda, we go through a number of items and then we vote approval of the entire list of items. So I'm going to continue reading through the remainder of the items. 3C is question of accepting a grant from the Boston Mayor's Office of Emergency Management and Urban Areas Study Initiative to the Brookline Police Department under the Critical Infrastructure and Key Resources Goal area in the amount of $26,500. 3D is question of approving the proprietary items for the peer school project as identified in the memos from the building department. 3E is the question of approving a temporary all kinds beverages sales license to Federico Rollo, doing business as the Lars Anderson Auto Museum, for an annual club social to be held on October 13th, 8:30 to 11. That is the first of a number of Lars Anderson license items And so I'm just going to continue going through them. The next one is fundraiser to be held on October 14th from 6 to 11 p.m. And that's an all kinds beverages sales license. The one after that is Lars Anderson for corporate reception on October 19th from 5 to 10:30 p.m. And that is an all kinds beverages sales license. The next is, and that's, by the way, to Jan Walsh. And the next one is, let's see, temporary wine and malt beverages, non-sales license to Matthew Dickey, and that is, again, doing business as Lars Anderson. That's on October 27th from 6 to 11. Finally, or next, not quite finally, all kinds of beverages, non-sales license. Keith Finks is the DBA in this case. Wedding reception, October 28th, 6 to 11. Next one after that, all kinds beverages. Kayla Nally is the DBA, and that's on October 21st from 6:30 to 10:30. And then after that is wine and malt beverages, non-sales license. Andrea Dillingham is the DBA, wedding reception on October 15th. And now we're at the end of the list. And all kinds beverages sales license. Jonathan Antonizio is the DBA, and that's October 22nd at 4:30 to 9:30 at 15 Newton Street. So, any questions from board members on any of those items, 3B through 3E? And I gotta quickly see if Chaz, you've got your hand up.
I just wanted to briefly, for you're in the public's clarity on 3C, this grant for the Urban Area Security Initiative. I believe this is a grant involving the development of infrastructure, safety infrastructure. It's about hardening key points and ensuring that our structures are secure. That's the purpose of that grant. I just want to make sure, since the language is broad, that everyone understands that that's what that's for.
Okay, doke. Miriam, I started to say welcome to the meeting. I would have said welcome earlier, but I just now realized you're here.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, homework takes precedence.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. And let's go back to the question of, first of all, whether there are any other questions. Mike, Bernard, Miriam, questions? No? Then let's take the vote. And so I'm going to call out the roll, and we'll hear the ayes, and I suspect maybe not any nays, but you never know. Bernard.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Miriam.
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye as well. So that's a 4-0. And that gets us to the next item, which is grant of location public hearing. And we are going to begin with a presentation from a speaker. We will then open the hearing for any members of the public who might be here and want to comment on this grant of location. And then we will close the hearing, and then we will hear discussion by members of the board and a vote. So Kate, who is it that's making the presentation?
We have Herb Bertoni speaking as the applicant.
And is Herb?
Herb is promoted.
Great.
Yes.
Herb, you can.
Okay. Good evening. This is Herb Bertoni from Cambridge Network Solutions. We are proposing to place about 30 feet. I'm sorry, about 8 feet of conduit and a handhole at the intersection of Washington Street and Davis Ave, coming off an Eversource manhole for a reel and splice location for our network. I was forced into placing 2 different size cables due to the complexity of the run and space limitations in the Eversource manhole. So I need to place a structure there to put a splice into that handhole.
Okay. Herb, if you don't mind, just a little bit more information, and what's the nature of the cables?
It's fiber optic cable. We are presently trying to feed 1330 Beacon Street, which we had got another grant of location a while back to place a handhole outside of that building to get into the building. And while we were placing the backbone cable, we had issues. So unfortunately, we had to cut the cable and rethink the pole and change reel sizes. to get to the-
Yeah, this is beginning to sound familiar. I think we've done a hearing on the other part of this at one time in the recent past.
Correct.
Yeah. And one more question from me, if you don't mind. So Cambridge Network Solutions, can I assume that you do the cable work and that the provider of the fiber optic is a different entity? Is that correct?
No, that is us.
Oh, that is you. Okay.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you for answering my questions. Any other members of the board have questions? Miriam?
Do you provide services in Brookline?
This is the first one in Brookline. Yes.
So will you be expanding into Brookline to provide more services? Because we could definitely use more competition in that area.
We provide basically large service providers. We don't do like fiber to the home or anything like that, but we do provide service to businesses. Yes, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Great, thanks.
You should think about going into people's homes.
Invited.
Yeah. Bernard, go ahead.
Yeah, could you explain to us what the nature of your services are? I mean, business.
Yes, we're a dark fiber and a lit service provider in Massachusetts. And we provide a lot of services right now around the Boston area, in Boston and around the surrounding towns and cities. But this is the first go at it in Brookline.
And you
Mike?
serve mainly or primarily or solely businesses?
Yes, primarily,
And-
yes.
And you provide them what? Access to the internet or what?
We provide, again, dark fiber, high-speed bandwidth, lit services to small and large business.
Okay, I guess I understand what that means.
What is dark
Sorry.
fiber? I think the fiber mean.
Dark fiber is when we provide dark fiber strands to the customer and they put their equipment on the ends of it and they light it themselves. And lit services, we provide the switch on either end for that service and they just plug into it. To this, yeah.
Are we talking cable / internet?
They can use it however they want. We don't restrict them. If they buy dark fiber, they can use it however they want. Lit services is different. They can break it out however they want.
So in a rather old-fashioned way, it's the equivalent of you're supplying the wire and people are putting their own telephones at each end.
They can do that, yes. That's the dark fiber part of it.
That's the analogy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying sufficiently to approve this, but in the future, to give us a better idea of exactly how this works and what it does.
And any other questions? All right, so let's open the public hearing at this point. Kate, is there anyone who has signed up to speak at this public hearing?
Right now, there are 15 attendees and nobody has indicated that they would like to speak at this hearing.
Okay. I'm just going to pause for a couple of beats in case anybody wants to raise their hand, but doesn't seem like anybody is raising their hand. So we will close the public hearing and we will proceed to a vote on this grant of location. And so the language of the vote is on the question of approving the petition of Cambridge Network Solutions for permission to construct and a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Washington Street, westerly from existing electric manhole number 14895, about 30 feet south of Davis Avenue, a distance of about 12 feet to a new manhole. All those in favor of approving the petition of Cambridge Network Solutions, as stated, starting with Bernard. Bernard,
Aye.
Mike?
Miriam comes first.
Oh, forgive
Thank
me.
you, Mike.
This is the problem with sticking to a script. Miriam,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. My apologies, Miriam.
Thank
All
you.
right, then. We will move to agenda item number 6. And this is a question of executing the warrant for the state election on November 8th, 2022. Kate, is Ben Kaufman present?
Ben Kaufman is here.
I'm going to assume Ben Kaufman can fill us in a bit on this, on the significance of all of this. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So this is actually a revote on issuing the warrant for the November 8th election. The warrant that was voted on a couple of weeks ago did not include some of the needed language related to the ballot questions that are going to be on the ballot. So there are 4 state level ballot questions as well as 1 local question that will be on the ballot. So this new issue warrant has all of that language included on it for the education of the public. So coming to ask you to revote on the warrant, including that language.
All right, I have an operational question at this point because I do not have in front of me language that goes through, revised language. In fact, all it says is question of executing the warrant for the state election on November 8th, 2022. Is that sufficient to cover the added material?
So I believe I provided the warrant to Devin ahead of time. So all that we need is the yes vote on executing that language.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Wasn't
correct.
wasn't your question whether we have the language that is added to the warrant? John?
That's actually on the document that
Okay, I'm looking
Kate
at it
asked us to
now.
sign.
Yeah, 6A in your packet.
Yeah,
starting on page
okay,
9.
got it.
Right, but does it have to be read into the record?
No.
No, okay. So then the language as on the document provided, in the packet. Any questions from members of the board for Ben? Come on, Ben's too good an opportunity to waste here. Somebody's got to have a question for Ben. All right, no questions. for
Ben's
Ben.
done such a good job. We have no questions.
Yeah, Ben, people want you to have dinner at a decent hour tonight, I guess. So, you're off the hook.
I'll ask you the
Oh.
question that you always ask us, Ben. Have you signed up for your early ballot yet?
So I make it a policy to vote on election day. Allows me to go out and about and visit my own precinct to make sure everything is going well. But I will inform the board that the town clerk's office has already mailed out over 10,000 vote by mail ballots for the November election. We currently have a team of 10 employees, both from the town clerk's office, from a number of other departments, IT, the town administrator's office, the police department, in room 103 right now, putting ballots together.
Oh.
As you can see, Selectman Member Ashkenazi's already gotten hers. So if you've
Okay.
requested a ballot, it should be on the way. If you want to request one, you can go to brooklinema.gov/vote by mail.
Great. 10,000 is very impressive. Ben, this is not on our agenda, but do you mind if I ask you a question? There have been reports in the news of kind of campaigns of harassment aimed at town clerk's offices. Do you have anything to report?
So we have received some of the public record requests that have been mentioned in the news. And I've been working closely with town council's office, who've been a great help at helping us craft our response. And we're following some of the guidance that comes from the secretary's office, as well as guidance that we're getting from our own town council's office to ensure we're able to respond appropriately, but also not allow it to hinder our election preparations. So far, it has not negatively impacted our office in a pretty severe way, mostly thanks to town council's efforts.
Thank you, Ben. And I just want to be absolutely clear with people, and I'm sure Ben would agree with me that, a public information request is not itself in any way, shape or form a harassment. But, if there is a campaign to pile on a bunch of such requests all at once, some people feel like that could be harassment. I'll take back that characterization, but I just want people to be aware that there's a lot of things that can go on behind the scene that might account for a town clerk's office being extraordinarily busy. Thank you, Ben. I'm going to proceed unless there are any other comments and questions to the question of executing the warrant for the state election on November 8th, 2022. And that is the warrant as in the document provided under 6A of our packet. All those in favor, Bernard,
Aye.
Miriam,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. Nuri does not get a vote, so sorry about that, Nuri.
As long as she gets some rice, I don't think she really cares.
Okay, Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yep, take care. Which brings us to change of operational hours request sanctuary. And this is, let's see, not a hearing. It's just up for us on the select board to hear and decide. Kate, do we have Brianna Patton?
Brianna Patton is here and she is the applicant.
And is she the presenter?
Yes.
Well, then let's turn this over to Brianna, but first I just want to read a little bit more about the language of this. It's a question of approving the change in operational hours for adult use cannabis and delivery at Sanctuary Medicinals Incorporated. I'll go into the details after we've had the presentation from Brianna. Brianna, the stage is yours.
Thank you, and thank you to the Select Board for its time tonight. My name is Brianna Patton. I'm from Attorney Jeffrey Allen's office, and we represent Sanctuary Medicinals. We're here tonight regarding Sanctuary's application to extend retail and delivery hours. And we come before this board under the initial commitment that all retail dispensaries would be treated the same. As you know, NETA was recently granted an extension of retail and delivery hours that's identical to what Sanctuary is requesting. And we believe that the granting of Sanctuary's application will be consistent with NETA as well as with the area. We did have the opportunity to meet with the Cannabis Mitigation Advisory Committee last week, and we have agreed to a set of conditions that if the board does not have, I'm happy to provide them to you. They are nearly identical to NETA's with one additional condition. That condition is condition 5. And it is that Sanctuary will take a short walk around the immediate area of Sanctuary within 1 hour of closing. That condition was requested by a board member, and we did agree to that condition. I also believe that we have Kira Doran with us from Sanctuary, who is the regional dispensary manager, and she can answer any questions that you may have. But Sanctuary is requesting an extension on the retail hours as well as the delivery hours. The current retail hours are Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're requesting that they be extended Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. For purposes of delivery, the current delivery hours are Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we're requesting the change of hours from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brianna. Is there anyone else from Sanctuary who is going to speak as part of this presentation?
I don't see that Kira has been promoted. I know she was supposed to be available and she did register to speak in case the board had any questions.
Okay, we're promoting Kira right now.
And Kira, you are at liberty to speak, or if you want to just answer questions, that's fine too.
I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Great. And Kate, is Bruce Levin here?
I am, and if I may just say briefly, it was a pleasure to work with Brianna to get some mutually satisfactory conditions, and I anticipate no problems and glad we were able to work it out.
And Bruce, I should have asked you first to, just identify yourself so people will know what your role in this was.
I'm Bruce Levin. I'm a neighbor, but I'm also a member of the Cannabis Mitigation Committee, and the committee unanimously voted in favor of the conditions as they were just read by Brianna.
Great. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
All right, members of the board, any questions on any
Yes,
aspect
please.
of this? Yes, okay, Mike has got his hand up.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm the liaison with the CMAC, with the Cannabis Mitigation Advisory Committee, and appreciate the smooth way in which this all got put together, using essentially the same model as we had for NETA. I do want to say that I received an email from Alok Samani, who's a member of the Moderators Committee that's studying marijuana hours and regulations in town. And I'm going to read this to you. He says, one thought, maybe we would consider NETA slightly different in that it's also servicing medical marijuana, but probably not, because there seems to be ample operating hours during every day of the week. So there doesn't seem to be an undue access burden for someone wanting to purchase either recreational or medical marijuana. So there doesn't seem to be a compelling reason to increase hours, even if that just resets it to pre-pandemic hours. Did NETA and Sanctuary make an economic case for staying open longer? The cost will, of course, increase. Does the incremental sales justify that? I exchanged or I responded to that with my assumptions about the economic justification. But Brianna, if you want to just mention what your additional expectation is for additional traffic during that hour of the night, that would be great.
Sure. So as part of our application, we did submit an updated traffic report that did analyze what the expected traffic increase would be during those hours, and it was not significant.
Presumably significant enough to justify staying open.
Correct, because I do think that there will be an increase in revenue, and given that increase, and especially considering that NETA was approved, we do think that it would be beneficial for Sanctuary to have that additional hour open for customers to be able to go to Sanctuary as well. We do have, addressing the medical dispensary comment that was made, we do have an additional licensing condition that requires us to stop allowing customers into the store 15 minutes prior to closing. That's something that NETA does not have, but we would adhere to, obviously, and we would continue to do that even with the additional hour opening. In addition, with respect to delivery, the delivery hours that are permitted for dispensaries outside of Brookline is significantly larger. We mentioned this in our application, and permitting people to have delivery at an increased rate. One moment. Would allow both of our minority owned delivery company that we use to have additional traffic and customers that they could provide product to, but would also be in line with the other dispensaries in Massachusetts and in the area.
It is on page 114 of the packet that we have for if any of the anyone wants to look at that, the trip generation estimate and the comment about delivery services, increased delivery services. But I did want to bring forward Alok's question.
Thank you, Mike. I thought I saw other hand or hands raised.
I just promoted Chair Deerfield. Share, you're promoted, or you can unmute yourself if you'd like to speak.
And
Oh,
Chair-
great.
Chair,
Okay.
please introduce yourself first, and then speak, please.
Yes, sure. My name is Cher Duffield. I'm a town meeting member for Precinct 10. And I just wanted to add that this is a whole new industry that the voters approved to, decriminalize and legalize marijuana, but we haven't, as a voting population, really talked about how we want to define this industry in our town. Very importantly, we have the teen youth survey that hasn't been done for 2 years at the high school, our substance abuse survey that's not going to be done until we won't have data till next fall. And also there's a special marijuana survey that they're doing at the high school that won't be done until next fall. And I think, the voters are going to be, it's something that, because it's such a new industry and it's a very big industry, I think that this is, the whole idea of how big it should be in Brookline and what the hours are going to be. I would like to see this put on the ballot for us to bring back to the voters who voted to decriminalize it, but didn't necessarily vote to kind of create all of these shops and these delivery options. I think there's a lot of interest in maybe having direct input on what this looks like.
Chair, I want to thank you. I also just want to jump in to say that I think, as you know, that we've got a couple of warrant articles on the agenda coming up very soon. And we're going to get to that. And we're going to get to some of those issues that you just mentioned. I do want to sort of keep the focus here on the question of the operating hours that this particular licensee has asked to have extended as a matter of essentially equity with other operating hours that we've already extended at a different retailer. Go ahead, Miriam.
Thank you. I mean, and sorry, my dog is barking. I would say, to me, we've done the same for Netta. Sanctuary has worked with the Cannabis Mitigation Committee and Bruce, that they have complied with requests for criteria, and I don't see any reason to deny this request.
Any other comments from board members? Okay, then I'm going to move to the vote on this. It is in two parts, and I'm going to ask that if Kate, if you hear me leave out anything, or Chaz, if I leave out anything, let's be sure we get this done correctly before we actually call the roll.
Okay.
But this is a vote on taking the current operating hours of Sanctuary, which are Monday to Saturday, 10 to 8, Sundays, 12 to 6, and changing those hours to Monday to Saturday, 10 to 9, and Sundays, 12 to 7. And these are the retail operating hours that we're referring to first. So retail operating hours, those proposed changes. I move approval of the proposed retail hours of operation. As stated, proposed hours Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sundays noon to 7 p.m. All those in favor, Bernard?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye. Now, delivery hours, similar situation, slightly different, I think, as to the hours, maybe. I'm not so sure. Well, we'll see when I read them aloud. I move approval of the proposed delivery hours of operation, which are daily 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is delivery hours 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. All those in favor, Bernard?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye. That is it for Article 7 on the agenda. And Article 8 is public hearing at 6:40, and I'll talk slowly because it's 6:39, and then we'll start the hearing at 6:40. This is a public hearing starting with a hearing on warrant Article 15. And we will then be doing a hearing on warrant Article 18, I guess it is, sorry. And we will also be later doing warrant article 33, but the two that we're going to do first are both marijuana, cannabis related, 15 and 18. And we're going to have, this is a public hearing. So we're going to have presentation, and then we're going to open the public hearing and have the hearing, and then close the public hearing, and then have board discussion and a vote. Starting with warrant article 15, which is to amend article 8.37.4 of the town's general bylaws to limit the allowed number of storefront marijuana retailers to 4. And Kate, I understand we have Susan Park to present.
Yes, Susan Park is here as a petitioner. Susan, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Susan, just to be clear on, I think you were offered 7 minutes per article for each of the 2 articles. Is that right?
Yes, so and I believe Wagner and Cher and A1 are also here. Actually, A1's going to speak at the public hearing portion. So, but if you could also promote Wagner and Cher, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, but let's just figure out how we're going to divide the time. So is it 3 of the sponsors of the article who are going to use the first 7 minutes?
Well, the 3 of us were going to use the full 14 minutes, and we're just going to speak on both. If that's
You
okay.
want to speak on both at once?
Yes.
Well, I was hoping that you would agree to speak on them individually. I think it can get a little confusing if we're discussing general bylaw changes and zoning changes at the same time.
Oh, yeah, I thought that we could just speak on both only because the warrant article 18 changing the zoning, it's basically, you know, the purpose of it is so that there's no special permit. So there's nothing really more to discuss. It was recommended by town council that we also just change the zoning that would go with warrant article 15.
Okay. So unless I hear objection from any members of the board, we'll go ahead and discuss both at once. And we'll give 14 minutes to Susan and her 2 other petitioners to speak. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so Susan, it sounds to me like I better do this math right, or I'm gonna look pretty.
Can I just, sorry, I just want to just raise one thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Susan came to the Cannabis Mitigation Advisory Committee with these 2 articles as well, and we'll report briefly on what their recommendation is. But I do want to ask that the petitioners speak to the articles and not to the overall question of marijuana and its role in society. I'm very interested in the specifics of the article, and the issue of whether marijuana should be legal or not is a settled issue as far as the voters are concerned and the state is concerned. So please do stick to the topic.
And just to make it possible, Susan, for you to sort of know where you are in your time limit. Kate, I'd like you to please call out when the first 4 minutes have gone by. And then if Susan wants to turn it over to one of her co-petitioners, that's her choice. And then whatever happens, call out when the next 4 minutes have gone by. And that'll take up 12 minutes if we just go every 4 minutes, and then there'll be 2 minutes at the end.
Okay.
Okay, great. Susan, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, so hi, my name is Susan Park. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 17. Just a little about me. I am also a member of the Brookline Parent Education Network and a member of the Brookline Wellness Committee through the Brookline Schools. I'm the vice president for the Town Meeting Member Association and former PTO chair of Brookline's Remote Learning Academy during COVID, during the first year of the pandemic, and a children's author. I am a FRR parent and a co-petitioner for warrant articles 15 and 18. I do have 3 daughters, 24, 22, and 13. So it's good to see everyone tonight. Thank you, John, for allowing the 14 minutes. In the last year or so, I remember the select board mentioned that in the proliferation of warrant articles, there are some warrant articles that will not be weighed in by the select board. And perhaps warrant articles 15 and 18 are two of them, because the nature of these warrant articles is to end up on the ballot as a question to let the community decide how many cannabis licenses is enough in Brookline. Instead of letting only a handful of people decide, or even 255 town meeting members, the purpose of warrant articles 15 and 18 is to let the greater public weigh in and vote. These warrant articles is not to take away any retail cannabis licenses, and it's not against cannabis licenses nor medicinal cannabis stores. We want to make that very clear. And perhaps you will not oppose these warrant articles and neither support them either, and let town meeting decide. So warrant article 15 is asking to amend the town's bylaws and cap retail cannabis stores to no more than 4. Warrant article 18 is asking to amend the town's zoning cap on retail cannabis stores to no more than 4. So they go hand in hand. The co-petitioners and I are moving forward only warrant articles 15 and 18 for the November town meeting. And that's only 2 of the 6 that we initially wrote up. I want to be very clear here in clarifying what warrant article 15 is and it is not. Warrant article 15 poses the question to town meeting whether to give the community a say into the expansion of cannabis retailer stores beyond 4 pre-existing cannabis retail licenses. The purpose of warrant article 15 is to put this question on the May ballot. In other words, if warrant article 15 passes at the November town meeting, the town of Brookline will be asked one of 2 questions. Well, actually, they'll be asked 2 questions and everyone will vote on one. One is voting in favor of no more than 4 retail cannabis stores, and 2, voting against no more than 4 cannabis retail stores. The community gets to decide how much cannabis retail stores is enough in Brookline. Warrant articles 15 and 18 is democratic and vital because many constituents may be concerned with how much cannabis is enough in our dense residential community. The law allows each town to decide how much is enough. And we have many voters who also have an opinion as to how many cannabis retail stores Brookline needs. Warrant article 15 and 18 points back to the ballot and allows our community to have a thoughtful, well-informed vote. So you may be asking, why would the co-petitioners organize a referendum and cap storefronts to no more than 4? I'm here today to explain that the landscape has changed quite a bit since 2016. In 2016, there were no cannabis stores and no delivery and courier licenses. Fast forward 6 years, there's plenty of cannabis access. The town has 4 retail licenses: Netta, Sanctuary, Mission, and Canna. And in the last year, Brookline now has 4 cannabis delivery and 4 courier licenses, with a recent expansion of delivery and courier hours. And you heard tonight, there's an expansion of Sanctuary's operating hours as well as Netta. And according to
4 minutes.
Okay, are we at 4 minutes?
4 minutes, yeah. Keep
Okay,
going.
thank you. So I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to hand it on to Wadner. According to the Cannabis Control Commission website, there are 35 stores within 10 miles of Brookline in the 02446 zip code and the surrounding communities offering ample access. There are 25 stores within 5 miles of the Brookline 02246 zip code. And I can't stress enough that convenient access to recreational marijuana is assured. Between Newton, Brighton, Alston, Fenway, and Back Bay, there are 12 provisional licenses queued up. And so that makes it 3 in Newton, 2 in Brighton, 3 in Alston, 4 in Fenway. Unfortunately, the overwhelming odds are that new licenses could go to a large national firm. This has been the trend. Warrant articles 15 and 18 recognizes that there's plenty of access. The wider public, and not just a handful of us, need to figure out how much is enough. And that's why putting this on the May ballot makes sense. It's just and it's fair. So now I'm going to pass this on to Wadner. And if when he and Cher are done, if you could just loop me back and I just have a few sentences to close. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Wagner when he starts to introduce himself. And also I want to make sure that Cher is re-enters the room here. I don't see her right now, but maybe she's just out of my view. So Wagner, when you hear the 4 minutes, it'll be either your choice to turn it over to Cher or to take a little bit more time.
Good evening. My name is Wadnell O'Shea. I am a town meeting member, Precinct 15, and I am one of the core petitioner on this warrant article 15 and 18. The reason, it's very simple. I am not anti-cannabis. I voted for it, and I think it makes sense. But basically today we are here trying to assess how far can we go as a community? How many of them we can assume within a community? Before, when it was put to the voter, there was projection, economic justification. As many of we review, it is less than approximately 1% or less, the economic justification of the town budget that come the revenue that come in it. But when you look at the impact, the human costs, when you do a benefit analysis, then the approximately 1 million, 1% we get in from the cannabis. And when you look at the impact it's gonna have on the community, on our children, the addiction, just to put it in perspective, in my background, I currently assess current character and fitness of lawyers to become lawyer in Massachusetts. And I review record all the time. And I can tell you that the impact of marijuana or substance abuse have on an individual. Addiction is real. So that's something that we need to consider. And we're not here trying to argue against it. We're just trying to let's put the brake, let's hit the brake a little bit and then bring it back to the voters. Let the voters decide. So basically the warrant article 15 and 18 is gonna go back before the town meeting member. If they voted for it, it's gonna go to the voter. The voter will decide, do we want more cannabis storefront, or do we want less? If they voted down, that's mean they want more. If they voted against it, for the warrant article, that's mean they don't want any more. So basically, all we asking is an opportunity to put it before the voters, because when you look at the benefits, the justification, the economic justification, it's a little bit short after 6 years. It's shorter than what we expected, but the impact, the human cost is gonna live long beyond what we expected. So that's the reason why we're here before you guys today. We try to let's hit the brake, then trying to assess where we're going for now. On one of the things that the board may want to consider is the fact that other communities, they have a vast area where they call commercial. They can actually select those areas to add additional storefront. But in Brookline, we don't have that. We have what we call common use, mixed use. So basically it's within the community. So when you look at, we already have 4. So do we have room for more than 4? That's the question I would like to leave with you guys. Thank you. And if Cher is not around, I will just revert the rest of my time to Susan.
Is Cher with us?
Cher's not accepted the promotion. I know she was driving, so I'm still trying to promote her, but I'm not getting no response.
Say more. I think we'll turn it back to Susan. And Kate, I'm not sure where we are on the clock right now, but why don't we reset it for another 4 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, and I think if Cher had mentioned what she had mentioned, I think she thought that she was at this public hearing. So if you all remember what she had said, and I know that she also, like Wagner, had voted in favor of cannabis for legalization. And I think her part of the speech was that she really wanted to, let's wait and see what the survey results are. I know the Brookline schools, they usually do student survey every 2 years. And John Kolinsky, who is part of the public health Department of Brookline, he had said that the survey, unfortunately, there's so many kids who were not in school, because of the hybrid, and that those results aren't completely accurate. So they want to do this survey again. And in the meantime, I think it just makes sense to let the town revote, especially since the landscape has changed so much. And I do want to mention, the bottom line is, like, these are just some questions that I was asking myself, and I think others would be wondering as well, like, are we satisfied with the current number of licenses? Are, like, as a town, is it, is the number 4 meeting our needs? Are they worth some of the inconveniences and concerns some neighbors and parents may have? What do you want next? Like, I'm just very curious, now that the landscape has changed so much, how would our neighbors and constituents, how would they respond? I know from, I got a phone call just 3 weeks ago from my constituent who was very upset that his daughter had come home with advertising in her homework folder. And, it was, it was Sanctuary's logo advertising the Brookline Art Center. And so, some phone calls were made, there were apologies, and actually Dr. Linus did an amazing job making sure that, that the connection of the logo with the flask that looks like a toy, that kids wouldn't, just wouldn't make that association that Sanctuary is a toy store. Because, that flask does look like a science experiment. So with expansion and more stores, there's going to be more competition. And with more competition, there's more ads, and we've seen it in homework folders. We've seen it on the Big Belly trash containers across from the Florida Ruffin Ridley School. And thank goodness those were removed, but it took time from many of us who are busy making these calls, making these emails.
Susan?
So, yes.
I'm sorry, might you wrap up at this point? Because I think you've done a great job of presenting the case, and I think time is just about up.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, so I do hope that, as these warrant articles will be discussed in November, but if these are warrant articles that you feel, that you don't want to support nor oppose, and just leave it at that, I would be very appreciative as well. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you to the presenters. And at this point, we need to open the public hearing. So I declare the public hearing open. Kate, are there any people here to speak as part of the public hearing?
At this time, there are 8 attendees. Oh, we do have one. I'm going to promote Ane Wang. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Mr. Wang, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, and feel free to tell us what you would like to say.
Sure. Yeah. My name is A1 Wang. I'm the town meeting member in Precinct 8. I'm also one of the co-petitioner for warrant article 15 and 18. So I would like to talk about this one from the supply chain management point of view. Yeah. So right now, based on the analysis Warner provided, 18 additional stores won't increase our revenue a lot, but in the other hands, it will be increased a lot about police and also town managing. So we will spend additional resources just trying to get in like just a little bit additional, maybe a little bit more revenues, but with more competition, that means the cost reduction, and ends up we might not doing a lot of additional effort without getting like more revenue. So that would be the challenge. So from like a supply chain point of view, like with the limited like stores, which give the town more leverage. So like for example, in Apple, like the company, they limited the supplier to 2 or 3 the most. Why they do that? Because they can have a more leverage to control the vendor. So if they don't follow the rule, they have to like they have the chance to lose their space. Yeah. So based on this one, no more than 4 actually would be a better like number for us. So we don't need to add in additional resources and efforts and still keep the same revenue ongoing. Yeah, so that's my comment.
Thank you very much. Kate, any other people here for the public hearing?
Not at this time. There are 7 attendees and nobody has indicated that they would like to speak at this public hearing.
Okay, then let's declare the public hearing part of this closed. And now it's time for any comments that board members want to make. Bernard.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Susan, like what metrics did you use to come up with this number 4 for the stores? I mean, why 4 as opposed to 6 or as opposed to some other number? And it's unlikely that because of the connection between marijuana stores in our bylaws and the state law, Chapter 94G, it's unlikely that we would increase the number of alcohol licenses to the point where we would have more than, I think, 6 or maybe 7 additional cannabis stores under the current regime. So what is the reason for 4?
Okay, thank you for the question, Bernard. Well, one, last year in January of 2021, a new study came out by the RAND Corporation. And the RAND Corporation, they collect data, they do research to help with policy making, policy design for the country. And so in that particular study, and I've also included that in my Warrant article, it said that with increased access in dense communities, they were associating and finding that there's increased use in our youth. And BPEN, the Brookline Parent Education Network, they are seeing a lot of problems with cannabis addiction in their students. And even at the last BPEN meeting, which was only 2 weeks ago, we were literally on the call, and the new director, she had to emergently go out because it was a serious problem with a student who is actually having suicide issues related to her drug use and cannabis. So they're seeing more and more of that. And I talked to a former select board member, and he made it very clear that when new information, new research and data presents itself, that it's incumbent for us to look at that.
Okay.
And so.
Yeah, Bernard, I hope that answers your question. Mike
Yeah,
has.
it does answer my question. I think Mike has something that is probably related to my question.
Right. Yeah. I have to say, the last few comments have from Susan. While I'm not sure whether the research has validity or not, but it's not the point. The point is, should we be limiting? Should we be doing something that asks voters to put a limit on the number of licenses? And that's really the only question here. The state law sets the number of marijuana outlets, marijuana stores, if you will, at 1/4 of the number of off-premises liquor sales establishments. And unless we're about to license a whole bunch more, where we're not going to get to more stores because we're currently at 19 or 20 liquor stores, and we would have to license, I think, 3 more in order to get above the number required to get from 4 to 5 licenses. And even then, there's no guarantee that the select board would give that license. So let's just stick to what this is all about and reality, which is that we're currently under the state's guidelines and likely to well, not likely, will remain under those guidelines unless the voters go in a different direction.
Okay, Mike, I want to take this opportunity to introduce Melissa Goff, who, as of the official announcement today, is Brookline's Deputy Town Administrator for Policy and Fiscal Affairs. And Melissa, congratulations on that new responsibility and new title. And I am introducing you at the urging of Mike because he tells me you have something to report as to the vote of the CMAC on the 2 articles.
Sure. Well, I provide staffing support for CMAC until we hire our cannabis coordinator. And I was saying to Mike that I couldn't recall the vote, but I remembered that I had to step out of the CMAC meeting because I was double booked. So I wasn't present for the vote last week. So I don't recall what it is.
So you're not the right person to call on for that. Mike, do you have the right?
Well, I actually asked that Melissa step in because I don't recall the vote either. Bruce Levin is, if he's still on, we'll know the vote, I think.
Okay, we'll see if
and I apologize for that confusion.
Bruce has his hand up.
Okay, let's let Bruce and Kate.
Promoting Bruce.
I believe it's actually 3 to 0 to 1. 3 in favor and one abstention.
In just a second. So
yeah.
And meantime, just remind everyone what CMAC is.
Sure. It's the Cannabis Mitigation Advisory Committee. It's made up of neighbors, largely, of the cannabis dispensaries or stores. And its original purpose was to help the town figure out what we needed to do to reduce the impact on the neighborhoods. And it's that impact is pretty much under control, I think, at this point, although the committee still is very useful, very helpful in, for example, in advising as to what sorts of rules ought to be in place for extended hours.
Great. And Bruce, do you have anything to report on the vote?
I do. The vote was 3 votes in favor of the 2 proposed warrant articles and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Unless there are other board members with questions or comments, I think maybe we could move to a vote on this. So pause while the board members get to decide if they have a question or comment. Doesn't look like they do.
John, just a quick point here. Typically,
yeah,
it's up to you, but obviously, and to the board. But typically on this, we hold off until the next hearing for a vote.
Well, that's my error. A rookie mistake here. Yeah, I should have realized this is not for the purpose of holding the vote tonight. So we will hold off on the vote for that to a future meeting. But we are done with this item for the warrant at this point then. And we'll move on to warrant Article 33, which is to amend Article 4.07 of the town zoning bylaws to allow for beekeeping. And I have possibly town meeting member Nathan Spritz on this, but Kate, fill us in.
Nathan is not in the attendees. I did send him an email a few minutes ago, and I haven't heard back from him. I know Devin was trying to confirm earlier today.
I'm a little at a loss as to what to do if we don't have a presenter, whether to go ahead and open and close the public hearing without having had a presentation on the article.
We can just, we typically, if the petitioner is unavailable, we would postpone this and reschedule it for a future meeting.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
I also just texted him, so.
Well, and if we hear that he has arrived later in the meeting, maybe we can sort of move that item later in the meeting. I don't want to catch people unawares that we're going to move to Article 9, excuse me, to item number 9 on the agenda. But I don't think that is going to be a complicated problem for anybody, because there's no one whose attendance is really required for item number 9. So we might as well dispense with that and then see if any folks from the beekeeping article have shown up by the time we deal with this. So as it happens, I'm the one to report on the 2 items under item number 9 on the agenda. We have an appointment to make to the Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee, and we have a slate of appointees to approve for what is known as the Vision Zero Committee, which is, I will remind everyone, Transportation Vision Zero. It is a committee which would be Brookline's version of committees that have been formed in other municipalities to pursue the goal of 0 deaths and 0 injuries from traffic accidents and injuries to either operators of cars or operators of bicycles or pedestrians. So we'll get to that in a second, but we'll start with Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee. There was a vacancy created on that committee with the decision of one of the members of the committee to resign. And as it happens, we also were at a moment in time where we thought it would be a really good idea to add to the committee someone who is from the Brington Road neighborhood, and who also has experience with these kinds of issues of planning and zoning. That person came to our attention. He's a former planning board member. His name is Matthew Odens. And with a little bit of persuading and a little bit of tweaking of the time that the committee is going to meet on a regular basis in the future, we figured out a way to add Matthew to the Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions that board members have. I don't think Matthew is here, but Kate, tell me if I'm wrong, because he didn't really, I told him he didn't have to be here for this. Yeah, go ahead.
Matthew's not in attendance.
I just want to tell you that Nathan just texted me. He's on his way.
Oh, that's good. So if we if we do this right, Nathan will come in just as we're finishing these 2 appointment votes. Any questions for me on the appointment of Matthew Udens to the Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee? No. All right, then let's go through the roll. Bernard.
Aye.
Miriam.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye. And excuse me while I clear my throat. So the next one, as you see on the agenda, is the Vero Vision Zero Committee. This is, as I say, a slate of appointees that we'll call this an expedited appointment process. Our own Mike Sandman from the Select Board is on the slate. Len Woolley from the Transportation Board. Emily Jacobson from the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Rebecca Salguero from Safe Routes to School, Townwide Task Force, David Trevette, Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Scott Englander, and Wadner Oje. And any questions on that committee? Or that slate, excuse me.
John, maybe just describe what the committee is intending to do.
Well, yeah, as I mentioned, it is intended to pursue a Vision Zero process for Brookline, 0 deaths, 0 injuries on our streets. And it's going to pursue that by coming up with a policy and by coming up with a plan. And they're going to work with Brian Kane, chair of our transportation board, and they're going to work with Todd, who is Todd Corain, who is, of course, our transportation director. And hopefully they're going to have
recording in progress.
Hopefully they're going to have a policy and plan in place by June of 2023. Does that give you what you need to know?
Yep, that's great. Yeah, I
Great.
just wanted to make sure everybody was up to speed,
Great.
including me.
Not to be confused with the Zero Admissions Advisory Board, which has unfortunately, it's a form of confusion that's arisen in a couple of places. So let's vote. Bernard,
Aye.
Miriam,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. So, Kate, do you have good news for us?
Yes, Nathan was just promoted.
Great. Great. Excuse me, Nathan. Nathan, you are the presenter of the article on beekeeping, which we're anxious to hear all about. So take it away.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for for taking the time for me today. And before I get started, Mr. Carey, welcome aboard. So we haven't had a chance to meet yet. So bees are regulated under our current zoning bylaw under accessory use 57. And we'll get to that in a second, but it has a rather long distance requirement to any adjacent structures. Bees are also regulated outside of zoning and outside of the building department by the health department, and that's really where the right regulation is for bees, right? Because they're the ones that give out the annual permits and the renewals, and they're the people that actually know a little bit about bees and how to ensure that there are beekeepers in Brookline that are collecting honey and doing beehives safely. The zoning is a little bit out of step with some recent trends in Eastern Massachusetts, like in Boston and Cambridge and Somerville and Watertown, where the zoning has been relaxed for bees and for hens. Actually, I've kept hens out of this in order to promote a little bit more urban agriculture here in a little bit more built up Eastern Massachusetts. And so I tried to use their work to move Brookline a few years ahead into the urban ag movement, and to just ease the restrictions, the zoning restrictions on bees. Now let's talk about those restrictions for a second. The current accessory use 57A, 57, gives an absolute right to any resident to have bees. They have to get a permit, obviously, but for a building permit to have bees, as long as the hive structure itself is placed at least 100 feet away from any adjacent structure. There are very few places within Brookline that meet that requirement. I mean, my neighborhood has no places in anybody's backyards that are more than 100 feet away from any adjacent structures. So there are, and I live in precinct 16, so we have a little bit more land than most places in Brookline. So there are really very, very few lots in Brookline that have such a place where that's possible. If someone has to go through the building permit process and to the ZBA in order to seek a special permit because they're out of compliance with the letter of the law in the zoning bylaw, they've got to get a plot plan and they've got to advertise that ZBA meeting. And the advertisement of that ZBA meeting has become very expensive now that the tab has dissolved. So the whole process of putting up a $400 beehive now can cost in excess of $2,000 or $3,000 by the time everything has been purchased. That's required. And the ZBA doesn't add much to the process at all. They're not professional, bee regulators. They know where they know how to read a plan and where something goes somewhere in a lot. And all they are is it's a ministerial function, because they're going along with and deferring to the health department for any reasons why a hive should or should not, or should not exist on a particular lot. And the health department has said, through Director Reese has said that she makes a diligent effort to contact all abutters. And since the main, I think, benefit to having a ZBA process and an open meeting process is it giving the abutters an opportunity to come and to object to any new changes on a lot in general, but a beekeeping permit in particular, as long as that's going to be handled by the department, by the health department. I think that what we're doing is we're overburdening. Well, if there were more bee permits, we'd be overburdening the ZBA for doing something that they're really there to do as a ministerial function in the first place. I do believe that Brookliners who want to be beekeepers should still provide all the information required to get a building permit from the building department to make sure that things do remain in compliance. We have to actually tick that box, but we should be relaxing the requirement in terms of distance, so that in a more open urban ag environment, the right department is doing most of the oversight. And that right department is the health department. In advance of submitting this warrant article, I spoke with Director Reese. I spoke with Polly, who spoke with Kara, and I provided this as well, although I didn't speak to Commissioner Bennett. So I ticked all the boxes, and nobody thinks that this is going to create any extra burdens on any department. That's my introduction.
Okay. Nathan, thank you so much. Board members, do you have questions? Go ahead, Miriam.
I love bees. Bees are good for us. We need more bees. I'm in full support.
Anybody else? If I'm warning you, I'm going to have questions if nobody else does. So,
I mean, I see Nathan at the cross country meets. Our kids are in the same sport, so we've already had a long conversation about this. So,
thank you, Miriam. And if you don't mind, I'll ask a couple of questions, and then if other board members have questions, that's fine. Nathan, I hear you on the sort of ministerial part of this. You know, where is the appropriate place within the town hall administrative structure to do the hearings on, you know, whether there should be permits granted for beekeeping? But what about the what about the impact question of how many beekeepers are there in Brookline now who are within the sort of they manage to operate within the existing regime, and how many do we anticipate there might be if we changed that regime? What are we trying to actually accomplish in terms of numbers here?
So I don't know how many current beekeepers are licensed within Brookline, nor do I know how many scofflaw beekeepers there are in Brookline. But according to Director Reese, she expects that this would open up beekeeping to a few extra beekeepers, not many. But it will be a few, and to those few, it will be meaningful. And just because the impact is small doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it right, especially when there's no operational impact to the departments.
Okay. So we don't see this as a change that would precipitate Brookline becoming known for, you know, hundreds of beekeepers, or, you know.
No. In fact, that's correct. And Director Reese and I did discuss that, and she expected that the overall impact of this might be a couple more, 3, 4, I don't know what the number is, but it's low single digits of additional permit applications. And we certainly haven't heard when Somerville and Cambridge has a much more open law, and some things that I'm not suggesting that we do, like in shared in duplexes with shared porches, they allow a beekeeper in a front yard to have a hive on a shared porch as long as there's proper signage. And I think that that's going like about 5 steps further in Brookline than what we've studied. So, and the opening up of hens and bees in Somerville, Boston, and Cambridge and Watertown, I don't think has created this huge overdevelopment of beekeepers anywhere. So I would not expect that would be true in Brookline either.
Just for the information of people, I believe it's true that there are beekeepers who can operate, for example, at the Lars Anderson Park Gardens, right? I mean,
So I do not believe that our zoning bylaw allows anyone to put bees on public land.
Oh, okay.
So there are a number of hives, perhaps a dozen, perhaps 20 at Allendale Farm, but as far as I'm aware, there's 0 at Lars Anderson.
You have reminded me that that's where I heard that we had them. Okay, great. So Allendale, yes. Lars Anderson, no. Any other questions from board members? This is a public hearing, so let's open the public hearing and see if there are any people who would like to ask questions who are here attending as members of the public.
At this time, there are 6 attendees and nobody has indicated that they would like to speak on this public hearing. I did want to note that Polly Selko from the zoning division is available if you have any questions for her.
Let's just see if any board members have questions for Polly. Anybody? It seems not. And that being the case, let's close the public hearing. And this is yet another of the items that we are not going to take a vote on tonight, but we will take a vote on at a future meeting. So Nathan, with our thanks for an excellent presentation and for allowing the town to consider this article, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Great. Well, I know I started the meeting by saying that at some point late in the meeting, Heather would join us, but I think unless we want to kill time for the next half hour, I think we might not have that pleasure. Chaz, go ahead.
Before we close, Mike brought up in the chat in a way that I think is just I wanted to flag that at the next regular meeting of the select board, I hope to present a candidate for your approval for finance director. Which is very exciting. As you know, the market for finance directors is very tight. And yet with the assistance of a really excellent volunteer selection committee, including Mike, thank you, we were able to find a candidate that was unanimously recommended by all members of that committee. And we are excited to introduce him to you. So on the 18th, we hope to have him here, and you'll have the opportunity to meet him in advance, ideally.
Excellent. All right, I don't see anybody with a hand up saying, they have some last minute business. So thanks to all who are here. Thanks to the public who attended, and we will be meeting again a week from tonight, next Tuesday. I guess we should announce too, just to be on the record about it. It is officially a meeting of the select board, correct, on Friday?
Yes.
Yeah, which will open in public session, but then quickly go to executive session. So if people see that on the calendar, that too is a meeting of the select board that's coming up. But the next meeting where there will be public sessions, as we had tonight, is a week from tonight, next Tuesday. Thank you, everybody.
Will that be remote, or we can be in person?
Well,
the 14th,
or do we know?
It's currently it's noticed for hybrid.
That you're talking about next Tuesday's meeting.
Yeah. No, the meeting on the 14th on Friday
is noticed.
I'm talking about Tuesday's meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bert.
Do we know?
We've not made a decision there yet. But
okay,
I'll circle back with you all, and we'll
great.
Post that.
So Fridays is noticed as hybrid, Tuesday TBA. Okay, great. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.